Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Dave. I am 34 and I've recently been chasing an ADHD diagnosis and I've had kind of partial diagnosis, been told that I've more than likely got ADHD, but they're wanting to trial me on medications to rule it in or rule it out, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
When did you first suspect you had ADHD?
Um, I always felt it as a kid. I always felt a little bit different from everyone. That's an understatement, actually. I always felt a lot different from everyone. But it was mainly I remember a couple of teachers once in a is it like secondary school and then once in college was saying you've got ADHD, you, because I was disrupting the class a lot and um I was like the class clown really, you know.
Mm.
Uh so I was aware of it then, but I'd always had that stigma around it.
Yeah.
With another family member suffering from it and going down the more criminal route. I didn't want to be seen in that light, and I guess I tried to ignore it and shut it out. And instead of, with maturity like I would now and the awareness now, embracing it and maybe exploring it a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, but to answer your question properly, this last 12 months, I've been like working with a private therapist and on basically CBT around depression and anxiety, and panic disorder, health anxiety. And after exhausting all these skills and appointments with the therapist, we acknowledged there was some sort of processing disorder going on because after a year and a half of um, going to treatment, I actually admitted to her that I was taking basically no info in offer whatsoever, and in certain um, not every session, but in certain sessions, I was coming away with nothing, just being like, "What has she actually just said?" And
Yeah.
just nodding with her, and
You didn't take
because
any
I
of it in.
exactly, but
Yeah.
not admitting to it because I didn't want to, I was embarrassed really.
Hmm.
Um,
You're not alone
but
there. Happens. That's one of my main things. I find that you have to try it extra hard to really listen to
yeah.
people. It's like, it's just a life skill that we have to really develop.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
distractions. I get really distracted by like people's faces and stuff. So like say if like I'm talking to you now and I'll be like, oh, he's got a cool as beard. His beard's way better than mine. How can I get my beard to look like his? And then you could be talking and I'm just not taking anything in because I'm just so
Yeah.
distracted by like features
Yeah.
or things that are moving. So sometimes like I can close my eyes and like while someone's talking and I can sort of center myself again and bring myself back to the moment. But
Yeah. At least you're catching it because that it's embarrassing, isn't it? Because you catch
oh,
it.
it is.
As long
It
as
is
you're
absolutely.
aware, just keep bringing yourself
Yeah,
back, you know?
that's what it is. I think that's the beauty of maturity as well. And as much as um, it's been a hard few years, especially having a nervous breakdown and which led me down a suicidal path at times. It has been enlightening and it's got me on this path of awareness and quickly maturing and being really serious about let's try and get better, mate. You've got to try and look after yourself and find
Sure.
out what's going on.
Yeah, start
Like,
somewhere, right?
yeah.
Do you want to tell us about your experiences with um, medication or, diagnosis?
So my first diagnosis when I had a nervous breakdown, um, I went and seen a psychiatrist, and she diagnosed me with like just basically depression and anxiety, and trialed me on like an SSRI. I think it was sertraline, and then that didn't work, and then I got put on metazapine, which worked to an extent in terms it was knocking me out before bed. It was really helping with sleep, but in terms of like the inattentiveness and all this type of stuff, I wasn't really getting any benefits. And then tried Prozac, same again, just not helping really. I suppose it served a purpose at the time to get me out of a really bad depression. I suppose there was some benefits, but over the long term, I think obviously not being aware of the ADHD, it's not going to sort itself out with that type of medication, and it ultimately came
Yeah.
back and bit me in the ass even stronger, to be honest, because
Right.
I'd exhausted like my therapist out with CBT, and nothing was working, mate, and I was trying so hard to get better, yet I was not getting better. Whereas the protocols that she would give me and the treatments that the psychiatrists were telling me to try and all this, it should have worked. But maybe the depression did ease and the anxiety has eased, and I've learned ways to, combat that. But the underlying cause of this, which is now what I've realized, is the ADHD, and now I'm very much on this journey of trying to get um, some medication with ADHD, which I've been led onto the path of methylphenidate and Strattera.
Yeah. You said you don't want to take them, right? You're a bit adverse to them. Got some issues with it.
I think if you'd give me the option 5 years ago, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid at taking a stimulant. But I've got a past now with stimulant abuse, by the way of pre-workout drinks. I supplemented a lot just to get out of bed on the morning and just to function, to go to work, to be able to focus. And I was using a pre-workout called Jacked, which got banned in the end for having DMAA, I think it is. Apparently, it's one atom for being speed or something. So I've read. But I was having really positive life experiences off it. I met my girlfriend, who I'm still with somehow, bless her, at this moment. And I passed my driving test while I was on that, which was a big achievement for me at the time because I could not focus in my lessons. I wasn't learning
Yeah.
anything and whatnot. And I built up a really good body, and things were good for a while on that. And then it got banned. And I actually started abusing it as well.
Yeah. As I think with ADHD, if you feel like you're deficient in that sort of in the dopamine, you can become very easily hooked on these substances.
Yeah.
You know, even the most basic of things. Like I've got a bit of a love for coffee, and I used to drink about 6 cups a day. You know, and it would
Yeah.
affect my sleep, and it just exacerbates the ADHD problems in the end. So
Yeah,
it's just
definitely.
that sensitivity can really, it becomes like a dependence as you think, oh, I need to function
Yeah.
like neurotypical people. It's an
It's
endless
almost
cycle.
it's almost that psychosomatic dependence as well. Like you may not need it, but you've convinced yourself that you do, and
Yeah.
you hook that way, and it might not even be given any benefits really, but
Hmm.
because you've had it and it's become your way for the last however long you've been abusing the stimulants or whatever, you sort of you feel like you need it, it's part of you or whatever,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Slippery slope.
exactly.
How are you finding studying now as you in university?
So I have actually deferred this year. This is my second year of my degree. I'm doing sports therapy and rehabilitation, which is really amazing. Anatomy and stuff's fascinating. But I struggled all last term, like my first year. I ended up getting an extension on my assignments and stuff, and leaving it to last minute as you do. Um,
Classic.
yeah, yeah. But somehow my girlfriend, being as amazing as she is, pulled me through. she's obviously a really neurotypical type person, or what I'd call a normal person. And she just, she was like, she just gave me that, whatever I was lacking, she was making up for, if that makes sense. And she was pushing me
Guidance,
through and
yeah.
really helping. Yeah.
I
So I
think you
got
need it,
through
you
it.
know.
Exactly. You do, yeah. But you can only learn from people, can you, really? And people have been there and done it, and she's done a degree. So, but I just like, I wasn't aware of ADHD even starting the course. I'd done that on the back of a breakdown because I was a plasterer up until that point. And one day I was just plastering a ceiling, just troweling it off, and I just got so bored of it, just thinking this is not
Yeah.
what I want to do in my life. And the typical, I've always, nothing against the lads at work. I love them. They were great, great bunch of lads. But I've never been that typical male where um talking just about football and gambling and all that type of stuff.
Mm.
It's just never been stimulating for me.
Yeah. Black sheep syndrome. You're
Yeah,
sort of like your own person, you know, nobody else is on the same wavelength in a way.
yeah, yeah. But there was nothing, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just, it wasn't stimulating me enough. So I wanted to challenge myself. And I thought, I'm really interested in anatomy because I suffered a torn ACL as well in 2015, which got me in a massive interest in like physiotherapy and stuff. And then eventually it just led me down the path of going back to uni to study this. This is what I want to do. And that's
Yeah.
what I've got my sights set on now. But then with this whole ADHD thing, it's become so evident when I started back in an academic setting how much it's affecting me. And slowly
Same
as
for
the
me.
course was, yeah, I know, yeah, I've seen some of your videos and
Yeah, it's like adulthood once you start, we're all late bloomers typically.
yeah,
So when we get back into the old ways, we start to question, hang on, we shouldn't be struggling this much. Why are they doing it so easily and I'm just struggling my ass off when they can do it
exactly.
effortlessly?
I totally resonates with me, mate. That you feel alone, don't you? As well, because
Mm.
you're trying so hard, yet it's almost like you just do not fit into that like that academic setting or even the system that's designed for a more neurotypical person.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like as if the system's very much designed for someone who's more neurotypical, whereas if someone like me, you or I are a bit more atypical, we're going to struggle because it's set for a routine and you've got to have progression and consistency and focus. And without that, you're not really going to be able to keep up. And I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately where I've got to now with my second year. I've had to defer and try and get this ADHD thing um, sort of stable,
Yeah,
get some
sure.
um, get some stability in my life, and then go back in September and do it all again. Really,
Smash it. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Do you want to read off that list of symptoms you said you had? I think that could be a help.
Yeah. So, the first ever symptom of ADHD since I've been like analyzing and going back over my life with my therapist and stuff. I've always noticed I've had this like strong, low self-esteem from my earliest memory, really. I'm always the lonely kid. Sort of say I'm always the target for a bully or whatever. Um,
Same.
yeah, but at the same time, I did have friends, but they were more like just acquaintances and not really any sort of deep friendship. Like meaningful.
Yeah.
And then I was always in the crowd of lads, but not in the crowd. I was always an outsider, if that makes sense. So
Mm.
I was,
Yeah.
you know, just a
Like we
hanger on.
touched on, as we were saying, sometimes, you'll talk to somebody and then they'll go and speak to other people, sort of like in much more depth. It seems more like
Exactly.
a natural connection for
Yeah,
some
it
reason.
seems like they've just got away with people that it's almost like you're not as interesting to them. Um,
Yeah,
but you don't know why because you feel yourself that you're very like emphatic, very passionate, emotional, and you're a good friend or whatever, and it doesn't make sense that why they would go and bond with someone who may not be as good as a friend potentially. I always feel like I've been a really good friend, but almost found that people aren't quite going to give that back to me the same, if that makes sense. And it's like
do you feel like you're more empathetic than the average person?
yeah, I feel like more intensely, more like emotional, more intense,
Mm.
and a lot more passionate as well in many
Mm.
regards. Like if someone came to me with a problem, like I would really try and listen, as best as I could, because it is hard at times to listen, but I'd really try and take it on board and help them, Whereas I don't feel
Sure.
from my mates I've ever had the same back, uh, especially
Mm.
when I was younger. And I think it's just finding your tribe, as you get older and
Sure,
learning
yeah.
to ditch certain people that aren't necessarily going to benefit like you going forward, or, you know, because ultimately it's all about yourself, isn't it? When you're
Yeah,
suffering from something like this, you've got to get a bit selfish to get better, I think.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, friends come and go. But eventually, you just evolve as a person, and your tastes are going to change. And you realize your style, in a
yeah,
conversation or whatever, the kind of person you are. So, yeah, I think ADHD can dampen our ability to understand ourselves socially.
yeah,
But after a while, you can get there, I think.
definitely. I always feel though, like say like family gatherings or I don't know, like weddings and stuff. I'm always the type of person that I'll go for half an hour and I'll engage with everyone. But once I've got over the small talk and the initial stimulation of not seeing someone for a while or whatever, a family member or friend, that's it for me. I want to
Mm.
go and do something else, that's going to really stimulate me. But like whereas like my girlfriend and other friends and stuff, they're just happy to be there and socialize and they can stay the whole night and drink and have fun and talk about like things. And I don't
Mm.
really have that small talk. If it's not
Does it not
interesting
hold
to
your
me,
attention?
no. It's almost like I go looking for someone more like me who I can have like a random, deep and meaningful conversation with rather than just talking, um, just about what did you have for tea tonight, mate, or what
Yeah, totally.
what's your career, what's your goals and all this. It
Yeah,
just
you want
doesn't.
to talk about the
Yeah.
universe and philosophy and all that, right?
I want to talk about underwater basket weaving and all that type of thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Uh,
I think one of the main things with me I've noticed in myself as well is like the inability to finish a project once I've started it. It's classic ADHD trait, I know, but it's been something I've never been able to do, especially with being a songwriter. Even like I've played many gigs, hundreds of gigs over the years and stuff. But I've noticed, like even looking back now in hindsight, my songs were always rushed just to get them out there.
yeah.
So it'd just be typical verse, chorus, whereas most songwriters would write verse, chorus, maybe middle eight, and then go back into the chorus, and they'd have more depth
Yeah.
to it, more layers. Mine was like very basic. It's almost as if like I've got bored of writing that song, I need to write the next one, and I noticed that recently, really, when I was listening back to them, thinking there's something missing with these songs. They're good in parts, but then they need something else. Um,
It's
but
probably
yeah,
always
like
that
look,
idea of, chasing perfection, not
yeah,
the low self-esteem. Could be that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah, that definitely resonates with me. Like perfectionism and stuff. Seeing faults in things that others probably don't.
Yeah.
Uh, and not being able to just settle with something and then probably winding yourself up to the point where you think it's absolutely rubbish work and you've moved on
Yeah.
from it. So it'll probably get left unfinished or
Yeah, it ties in with the RSD, the rejection sensitive dysphoria, because if
yeah,
you're always criticizing yourself, you probably find you your own worst critic. And 9 times out of ten,
yeah,
people aren't thinking what you think they're thinking. It's
I know.
just false.
And that's the beauty with CBT, what I've learned with CBT. Once it clicked with me, how I'd been thinking up until 2 years ago, and almost the paradigm that I'd been nurtured into, and the way I'd been, my automatic bias thinking, I call it, like, would be to jump to the
Yeah.
negative about myself or defensive and very,
Mm.
um, what's the word, sensitive. Um,
Sure.
so I'd always set myself up to fail somewhat. So with a CBT, I find it really helpful. It's took me, say if someone would go with just typical depression, anxiety, and they aren't suffering with like ADHD, they'd probably need 2 or 3 sessions and they'd get it. Whereas I
Yeah.
need like 30 just for it to click
What would
in.
they? What was it like? What sort of things do they do in CBT?
So I learned because I suffer with like panic attacks and stuff. That was one of the main reasons I went. Um,
Yeah.
I it's hard to articulate it. Basically, one of the things that resonated with me, what my therapist taught me, is how thought don't be controlled by your thoughts and think of them as more like a river flowing of thoughts, and there's all different ones. And instead of picking
Yeah.
one out and just focus on it and not letting it flow down the stream bombard, you're hyper focusing on one and it's giving you that anxiety because you're like, oh my God,
Oh yeah.
my heart. And you know, all these other thoughts are happening and you're not paying them attention. So I'm kind of like trying to let them sail on by, so to speak.
Mm.
And I learned
Yeah.
that. And then obviously, because CBT for me is never, it's not my natural way of thinking. And it's like a total, it's like a separate, um, it's like there's me and then there's CBT me. And it's like, I've got to remember, like, when I go back into my old thinking habits, no, this is not how people are thinking about you or whatever. And
Yeah.
let's use your CBT, let's rationalize things quicker rather than getting to the point where you're going to get agitated and angry and anxious and depressed over it.
Yeah.
Because it's uh it's trying to get it while it's before it's formed into something that you can't really recover from as quick. If you keep
Mm.
letting it go on and on and on, overthinking and stuff. And you know, you and I both know all too well how many thoughts go in our heads.
Mm.
You know,
Just recognizing it, I think, helps, and then just making the choice, the conscious decision to shut it out and go back to your CPT
yeah,
thinking. Because it
exactly.
does. You're kind of like a puppet on a string. It's not really a fault. It's just an innate part of how your brain operates. But being able to
Yeah,
override it is half the battle won. So
exactly. I think a lot of it's to do. I mentioned like the paradigm, like the way I was nurtured as well. Like my mum was a single mum. I didn't know my dad, so I didn't have that father figure in my life. And she was struggling, you know, to raise me as a single mum, and she had her own problems, and she's actually being checked out for ADHD herself now. I hope she doesn't mind me saying that if this goes on YouTube. Sorry, mum. Um, but yeah, she's very much on the same path as what I'm on now, and I didn't realize because she's a very strong woman, and she's a manager in the NHS.
all
And
right.
she's got a very good job, but I've always like wondered how she's maintained that job. Like if
Mm.
she's got similar traits to me, which she does. And it's only like in the last year that we've talked, and I've realized how much she struggles as well with the same things. And I
Right.
said to her mum, like, she's always thought it's just normal. Oh, come on, I can keep going, keep going. But
Yeah.
she's told me recently something that I couldn't believe that. So her job is like 9 till 5, classic 9 till 5 job. And she doesn't get in from work till like 8, 9 o'clock because she cannot focus when she's in work, when there's the radio on, there's other people in. So she stays back and does all the work, all the paperwork.
Right.
And I said, Mum, that isn't normal, surely.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think our society was so hung up on being perfect and hardworking that
Yeah.
we kind of we don't like to admit that we have a problem or a
Yeah.
disability sometimes.
Even
So
like
I
a
mean,
label, I
yeah, a
think,
label. People just wince at the idea of having ADHD.
yeah,
It's not that bad. I mean, yeah, it hurts part of your life, but it's not fundamentally who you are. It's just
no.
a part of you. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of positives as well with ADHD because I've noticed things like problem solving. Because I've probably struggled in the past with issues that people have, I can go into a problem and see it straight away, and I'll be like, "Well, just do that." And someone's like, "Well, how do you know I would just do that?" And it's just like, "Well, I just know because
Fair.
just I've tortured myself for long enough. I've learned from doing it wrong that much that I've perfected doing it right." So
Good.
I think there is positive things to it, especially with being passionate and creative.
Yeah,
It's
there's this
just
idea that some people think that it's not innately part of ADHD, but my theory is that passion can come from the emotionality that's caused by ADHD. Obviously, our brains are structured a little differently than the neurotypical, so
yeah,
our inability to be more sort of regular, we get more sort of ups and downs, if you like, a bit like
yeah,
bipolar in a way. But
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe that might cause. This is why I think a lot of people say it's, oh yeah, I'm creative, I'm passionate. Maybe that's why. It could be an explanation, but who
Mm,
knows?
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
But maybe when your mum gets, if she gets tested, I mean, you said you didn't have a full 100% positive diagnosis, but I mean, if it's the same for her, I'd say yeah, it's probably 100% if it comes
Yeah.
up positive
Yeah, it's like we talked earlier off camera, well, when it messed up that time.
before it
We
messed
was,
up.
yeah, yeah. I was saying I wasn't breastfed, and I think you said your mum didn't breastfeed you, and
Yeah,
I was born in like distress and stuff. And it's interesting because there's articles and, you know, journals to back up that having an effect on ADHD and stuff. I find that quite interesting, all that type of stuff.
yeah, because we don't really know. It's not really understood. Um,
Yeah,
But as I said, my cousin, he was born prematurely and he's got autism as well as ADHD. So he's a lot more severe than I am.
yeah,
I'm more high functioning, but it does make me wonder because I mean, my father smoked as well. I don't know if it affects the sperm. We have no idea. So it's
yeah.
all kind of it's
Yeah,
very new. You know?
my mum's mum smoked as well during my mum's pregnancy. So, you know,
Mm.
I really do. But me and my girlfriend both believe like my mum's suffering the same thing. And it's opened her eyes a lot because she was very much against me sort of chasing this ADHD thing. She thought it was becoming like more of an obsession, and she didn't feel I needed a label and I can just just keep going, just you know. But I can't, and I think people are different. There's some people who can and they're highly functional, and I guess
Yeah,
I've
sure.
been highly functional, but I know there's something up, and if there's
Exactly.
some
That's all you need is a hunch.
yeah, if there's some ways to have a better life and be happy, I think that's ultimately there's nothing wrong with that. And if it means having a label, then give me the label, all day
Yeah,
long, because I'm
there's nothing wrong
34
with it.
now, and exactly. I mean, you get older and you get a lot. I think you start not giving a shit, Like
Yeah.
5 years ago, may have been, doing this conversation. Now you, it'd have been, oh God, what if? what if so and so sees this and but now it's like fuck them, like
Yeah.
it's my life and there's if you've got something, I think you should embrace it and learn about it and try and treat it as best you can and tackle it
Yeah.
because you could there's only so long you can go bury stuff like this and I think that's what I've done. I've buried it
Sweeping it
through
under the carpet.
just being a loner and not having no one to talk to as a kid and not having no close mates and obviously not having a father figure and then my mum having her own issues, then not being able to talk to her. And I've just buried it.
Comorbid depression, anxiety. It's so classic.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why there's so many people reach out to me and say, "Oh, my doctor um, is misdiagnosing it as anxiety," and
Yeah.
it's very common. It's so easy to misdiagnose.
Yeah, I think they like you to fit into just the one box for them that suits them, going off that DSM-5 guidelines. And
Mm,
if you've got comorbidities, they get a bit like, oh well, let's just try the SSRI route rather than
yeah,
spending a little bit of time with someone taking a history. I think it's not that they haven't got the people who can do it. It's just they haven't got the time and the resources.
yeah,
There's not enough. It's understaffed.
yeah. Especially here, I think, as we were saying, in America, they have it more under control, I think. But with the
Definitely, yeah.
NHS system here, I wouldn't blame you for going private because you've had so many issues with it, and it takes a long time. And considering the male suicide rate is just appalling, I think it's
Yeah.
quite a crisis, to be honest.
It is. It's like we were talking earlier. It's actually the highest where I live in Middlesbrough in the northeast of England. It's the highest in the whole country, in the whole UK. And I think, how many of it's male suicide rates, and I think how many males who've, who've took their lives could have been helped, and it could have been something so simple as someone talking to them, giving them the time to express themselves and just listen to them with no judgment. Or how many of them may have had undiagnosed ADHD and could have been given some medication and could
Mm.
still be here, and it's sad, and
I thought that
I
all
think,
locked up in prison.
yeah, yeah. I think times are changing, things are getting better, but it's not as quick as it could be, or perhaps should
Yeah,
be as
sure.
well.
Definitely
But
agree. Yeah.
I think this is where things like social media like this, like finding your channel, was a godsend for me. Really,
I'm glad to hear it.
yeah, great work, mate. Awesome. And obviously, social media stuff like this is the first time I've ever done a Skype call and that. But it's all good, It's human connection with
Yeah.
like-minded people who are, and you can learn off each other and stuff. And I think it's really good. It's really positive.
Mm.
Hopefully, can reach many more people.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, one step at a time. I mean, you're the second person I've had an interview with, so I really appreciate you, giving me your time.
Yes,
So,
I really appreciate you giving me the time as well. I've
yeah,
watched that. I watched the was it is it Dan? Was it Daniel?
yeah,
That
yeah,
yeah, that was really he's really insightful. That guy.
yeah, yeah. He's a good
I
friend of mine.
noticed.
Um, it's a bit too long. The problem with these interviews, we can get carried away, and it's so fun that it's like, oh,
Yeah,
who's realistically going to watch like 2 hours? So,
well, someone
you know
with
what I mean?
ADHD is definitely not going to.
Yeah. So we're
I know
about
I would.
30.
I know I can't. I'll have to
Yeah,
do it in segments. I will watch, but I'll watch 15 minutes and then I'll do something for the rest of the day. And then I've got that video still. I'll watch the next
yeah,
15. It's easy to go and blame the NHS, but there is help there. It's very selective who gets it, I
yeah.
think.
It's difficult to get access, and it's not always that helpful.
No, but yeah, I think it's definitely an avenue to be explored. This and
Good business idea. I mean, I'd love to
yeah,
help people for a living. Like, just if I could do this for a living, I'd be set. That's my dream career.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
uh,
Well, you are doing it.
well, I'm not getting paid for it yet,
You
but
will soon.
maybe one day. Oh, I don't really care. I don't mind not being paid for it. I mean, if I can just help people, it just gives me some purpose in life.
I think with that though, mate, it's it's like the law of attraction, like meets like, and if you're doing something that you like and that's you're passionate about and you're enjoying it, I think naturally success will come with it, and that's just how I believe things work. You know, if you're putting an honesty and a sincerity into something, you're only naturally going to succeed in the end, and it might be slow, but it'll be worth it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm a psychologist or anything, but I mean, you get people who are like Instagram influencers, they get paid
Yeah.
these days, which is crazy. So who knows?
Yeah. 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 It's good, mate. I think it's great that what you're doing. I showed my mum and my girlfriend your videos as well, and they
Oh,
said they've
sweet.
seen, a lot of similarities between mine and your stories. Not just our beards, but but yeah, I think it's great, mate, and I really hope that the channel takes off and these videos help and they can reach people like us.
So great speaking to you. Thanks again. Hopefully this time the video will actually bloody save.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I'll,
yeah.
I'll throw my laptop against the door.
Yeah, mate. Great speaking, and thanks for your time and take care, my friend.
Okay, cheers. Thanks a
Cheers,
lot,
mate.
mate.
Thanks,
Bye
mate.
bye.